This video is on the shadow. So shadow is a Jungian term coming from Carl Jung, refer to that parts of ourselves which we repress and deny and may therefore project. So the unconscious, linked to the body being the unconscious in many ways, at least according to some. Why is this critical? Well, a few reasons. We tend to overreact to people who represent part of us which we repress or deny, particularly if we are then projecting onto them. So let me give an example. I think this will show you what I mean. Let's say I say, I'm never angry, I'm not in touch with my anger side. We all have that as a human emotion, but I might deny it. I'm not angry at all. And then we see someone who's a little bit moody or a little bit angry, and we say, they're so angry, they're so aggressive, oh my God, they're terrible, I can't be around them. And we're overreacting because we're not seeing reality at that point. Also, we're not seeing ourselves. So self-awareness being the basis of leadership, coaching, facilitation. Hope that makes sense. If we're not self-aware, by definition, we're not aware of shadow. So it's parts of ourselves we're not seeing, we're not aware of, so we're missing something about ourselves maybe that other people are seeing. And as I said, maybe leading us to overreact, normally in a negative way. Normally it will be like, we'll be triggered by something. That can make centering, for example, very difficult. Centering is a great technique, but I've found if there's someone I have this kind of shadow involvement with, I'm just not able to center. I'm too triggered, yeah? So unnecessary triggering, lack of empathy, certain clients we just can't work with, certain students we can't serve well. It also takes a lot of energy. Yeah. There's a way in which it's not just not seeing something unconsciously, it's deliberately unconsciously, but pushing it away. It's the metaphor that's often used. So shadow takes energy. Shadow work, because we can't look at it directly, is where we look at who triggers us and go, why is it that I'm more annoyed by that person than my friends? Maybe they are symbolic of something that I need to re-own in myself. Normally it's a quality that's denied. Sometimes it's a quality that we have and don't want to look at. Well, that's kind of the same thing. So that's the shadow. Sometimes it's what's called golden shadow. That's where we idealize someone. Occasionally I'll see students doing this with me or another trainer. Wow, you're so amazing. I could never be like you. There's a sort of like you're perfect. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. If you're famous, you get this a lot. It's easier to do this from afar. So people would do it with pop stars. I had a sort of a man crush on the Dalai Lama for a while. And I was sort of denying my own kindness, actually. I was sort of, every time I'd see him, I'd cry and get, oh, he's so amazing. And I go, hang on a minute, he's a great guy. You know, and equally, Hitler's a bad guy. It's not wrong to be triggered by Hitler. It doesn't mean you have shadow, but it's like, maybe you've got a real thing for authoritarian leaders as opposed to your friends just going, yeah, well, he's bad. Same with the golden shadow. It's something it's like 16-year-olds in love. It's that slightly unrealistic, slightly like la, la, la. And all shadow takes us out of contact with the other person. So we're not really in relationship. Interestingly, nearly every intimate relationship people ever have involves a certain amount, some would say always, some would say less mature relationships, a certain amount of shadow. There's a certain amount of idealization of not really seeing them. And what happens in a long-term relationship, like a marriage, is you go, oh, and you start actually seeing the person. And then there's the real intimacy, because you can actually get to know them once you've stopped. And often what will happen in a relationship after 6 months or 7 years or something, usually after 6 months it starts, there's a flipping of all the things you were like, wow, they're so amazing, suddenly start to annoy you, and you see all the bad things all of a sudden. Students who are long-term students, I've noticed this with students usually about 3 years in. So most students don't have a huge golden shadow, but most have a little bit, I'd say, with me. And what will happen about 3 years in is they'll suddenly start getting really annoyed by me and critical and seeing all the bad things. Now, I don't think I've changed for the worst, or it's not like I've hidden something. They just started seeing those sides and they're working through in their own character. There's a healthy side to this as well, where when you have that golden shadow triggered by a teacher or one of the other students, you go, wow, she's so funny, or he's so confident, that's one I get a lot. Look for that in yourself. Instead of putting it on the other, instead of outsourcing that piece of your personality, go, how can I learn that from them? So instead of idealization, it becomes learning. So then you look for the concrete things they're doing in behaviors, gesture, embodiment, okay, and actually going, how can I learn that from them? So you're using the golden shadow as a trigger to learn. There's various shadow exercises we use. mostly involving stepping into the different embodiments, right? So even the 4 elements exercise, you can have a whole element in shadow. Normally there's like 2 that are pretty owned, 1 that you're not so good at but isn't in shadow, it's just sort of not developed, and usually 1 that's like, fuck those people. Yeah, so watch out for that. And the kind of healing here, this sort of self-body therapy, is to step into that and to walk, assuming it's not totally traumatic, and to inhabit it. And it goes from triggering to neutral to, oh, okay, this is part of me. There's a whole bunch of therapeutic exercises around shadow. On EFC, we always point to shadow because we say, look, this is worth knowing. It can get in your way. And what I would say is, starting to become aware of some of those denied selves can help us grow. We used to do more of it on EFC, and then we found out it just can't really be done in the time. So I'd say for long-term practitioners to have a therapist to do some sort of shadow work or therapeutic practice, there's various modalities out there, can certainly be helpful as a long-term practitioner. Tends to be on EFC, we teach more like the basic fundamental stuff, and we leave that for people to do on a one-on-one basis. Sometimes we'll recommend stuff, and it definitely happens accidentally because we're hitting so many different modalities, so many different guest teachers, you will hit some shadow at some point. So hence this video, it's worth knowing about. We don't spend loads of time on it on EFC just because it can't actually be done in the time we have. It's more of a long-term project, but definitely one to know about. And this is really a Western contribution to embodiment. You're not going to find it through meditation because you can't see it. You're just not aware of it, right, by definition. So yeah, shadow, well worth knowing about. Shadow work of various kinds, super useful. And I hope that's a useful introduction.